world of thrills, a world of drama, of capes and tights, a world where death is a revolving door. Welcome to the Geek Matrix.
I don't think I'll ever get tired of hearing that intro song. No coughing.
Welcome to the Geek Matrix. That's a little sick today in the Geek Matrix.
Live all the way across the country from you, and I somehow have the same thing you do, and I don't think that's cool. I don't think that's cool at all.
I don't think it's cool.
Kind of a jerk. think you gave it to me when we were playing Mario Kart the other day.
Okay, I was going to say I sent it to you through Discord, but I don't want people to be afraid of Discord. So, no, it's not a digital virus. It's a gaming transmitted virus.
There you go. That's what it is.
Yeah. Because fuck you and your Mario Kart. You hit me with red shells way too many times that day, bud.
Way too many times that day, bud.
All right, so we are here having fun. This is episode I missed last week, so the 187.
187.
Ooh, I got it. DC Comics Review Show number 187. This is Rob, as always. Apart from last week, it's my wife's birthday. Cut me some slack. I am here as always with Josh.
Howdy, everybody.
And it's been a long time, but we are more than happy to have him back on here. It's Nathan. Welcome back.
Hello.
And no bow. I mean, really?
You did that all for me.
Well, Nathan has graciously decided to fill in for Brandon this week, and we're more than happy. We've been trying to get you on for like the past month, I think.
It's been a series of timelines not aligning. I was supposed to come on last week to do the solo with Josh, but unfortunately my flight, I forgot I had a flight booked, which I haven't flown out in like a couple months, and so it was like, oh, I just happened to have accidentally booked the flight like a couple weeks before during the exact time you guys record, and I just forgot. So just hasn't quite aligned, but I'm very excited to be here.
I think it let me set a record for the quickest Geek Matrix show in history.
It would have been 3 times as long if I had shown up. Let me tell you that.
I also would have been really cool to have like a Mile High podcast.
Yeah. For those who don't know me, I don't do a lot of it right now, but I used to write for the reading orders for the Comic Book Herald. And come from the DC Universe Infinite era, or like on back when they had the forums were really prevalent. And I come from a lot of that area. And then mostly these days I'm just on Twitter, chilling around. And I'm friends with Brandon in real life. So it's very nice to be here and get to talk about comics. I don't get to do it as much as I used to.
So what he's saying is he got here through nepotism.
No, I put in my own good work. I made money writing about comics before I came on here. So
now you're rubbing it in our face. We can't make money through comics.
Look, I never said it paid well. I'm just saying occasionally there's like a couple dollars thrown in.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even call it a part-time job. It's not that much money.
Yeah.
But thank you all for inviting me on. I'm very excited to talk about comics. It's a bit of a quieter week, but I think there's some really fun stuff to dive into. So
I mean, quieter weeks just mean there's more discussion to be had, and we'll try to stay on topic. I'm sure. I don't know if you've caught up to all the episodes. I know you. Have you been listening to every episode, or was it
once a blue moon, once a month or so? Like it's not something I have I don't.
With 3-hour-long episodes, man.
Yes, exactly, right. And then I also only have so much time in my week to read everything.
Yeah.
So I don't always get to everything. And if I don't get to everything, then I typically don't listen to the podcast version of everything.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of podcasts I go to first that are for non-DC stuff. So it's about what I can get to. But I do always enjoy listening when I pop in. So that's always fun.
I think that's the easiest way for me to digest Marvel stuff is listen to about it on a podcast.
Yeah, I'm
Saves
definitely
me the pain of
for those
reading.
curious, I'm very into DC, and then I also pay attention a lot to the X-Men stuff ever since Krakoa, and I've fallen off hard ever since Krakoa is starting to disappear because I can't get myself to read that because I think I grieve every time I read a Krakoa comic right now, but that
Yeah.
is okay.
It's coming
That
to
being
an end
said, yeah.
soon. Like
That being
they're doing
said,
the hard relaunch, I think,
yeah.
in June.
Yeah, with the new X-Men.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen what they're doing. I really, really hope that they've taken some feedback and that like some element of Krakoa will still be there because I'm
Yeah.
really not ready to let that go. Jonathan Hickman said at one point there was a 30-year plan he had a 30 years of ideas. And here we are, 7 years in, and they're wrapping up the era, and it just doesn't feel like they're ready. It feels like there's so much potential still to mine. And I really hope that this is the end of the first Krakoa age and that there's still more Krakoa stuff to explore. But
Yeah.
I'm not positive on that. I'm just hopeful.
It's crazy.
That's okay, because the good
plan.
news, DC Comics is killing it every week right now. I'm
Yeah.
always impressed. I know we don't agree on all the same books. Wonder Woman, we have disagreements on. Titans, we have disagreements on. Batman, we have disagreements on. But generally, I'm really happy with what DC's doing. And it feels a bit like a golden era. And I'm excited to talk about some of the really interesting developments this week, from the news of Absolute Power to the Green Arrow, which was a big surprise in terms of how impactful it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Green Arrow. But that being said, like you've kind of segued us perfectly. Do you want to fill us in on Absolute Power? Because you seem to know a lot more about it than Josh and I do right off the bat.
Yeah, see, something I forget is that you guys aren't the biggest news junkies when it comes to DC Comics stuff. You guys tend to be a little more on the don't spoil anything side.
That's me. Rob does.
Yeah,
okay.
Spoiler heavy. I'd read off the articles, but I don't have it ready.
Yeah, so DC had a presentation at Comics Pro, the retailer convention, where they announced their big event for the summer is called Absolute Power. And it's by Mark Waid with artist Dan Mora. And we'll focus on recent plot points that have come from Titans Beast World, Batman, and Action Comics, as well as a couple of others. And we'll see Amanda Waller finally make good on her threat to rid the world of metahumans. This is, by the way, coming from IGN. I'm quoting from IGN. With help from Failsafe and the Brainiac Queen, Waller will steal the powers of every metahuman on Earth. It'll fall on Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman to rally their heroes against this existential threat. Readers will get an early taste in Free Comic Book Days, the Free Comic Book Day issue, which will be a 12-page story. And then there will also be a standalone special called Absolute Power Ground Zero, which will bridge the gap between Action Comics and the main Absolute Power series. Absolute Power will come out on July 2nd, and Mark Waid will be writing all of the books in this series, which is wild. I think there's 25 issues. So there's the main series, which will be Absolute Power number 1 through 4 by Mark Waid. Then there will be 3 Batman tie-ins, 3 Superman tie-ins, 3 Wonder Woman tie-ins, 3, and then there's 7 issues of a series book called Task Force 7, which presumably will focus on Amanda Waller's sort of dark Justice League of sorts. And then there's also a 3-issue mini called Absolute Power Origins. And Mark Waid is writing all of it. So I guess I have a couple questions to start with to get your thoughts. First of all, what do you think of Mark Waid being the choice of this event and the fact that he's writing everything?
I am all for it. Sorry, I just want to not fact check, but double check something. Task Force 7 sounds very familiar.
I mean, there's been all sorts of task force. There's Task Force X, Task Force 11, which was which was the psionic team. I assume this is just Task Force 7 because there's like 7 bad characters. So we have probably Sergeant Steel, Failsafe, and Brainiac Queen. And then I don't know who the other 4 would be. Probably one from each of the different like heroes, like bad guys right now. So presumably for the stillness, for Flash, would be something like the Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah.
And something along those lines.
I'm confusing it with Team 7 from the Flashpoint universe.
Yeah.
So, but what do you think of Mark Waid writing all 25 issues? Does that excite you, make you nervous?
Like when you initially said it, I was like, holy fuck, 25 issues? Like, how is he gonna like, but then you broke it down, it's like mini series. Okay, actually that makes a bit more sense. because I'll always like reference Blackest Night. Jeff Johns wrote a good chunk of the issues and tie-ins throughout that as well. It wasn't that bad, so I'll give him benefit of the doubt if he's got the work cut out. It's bridging all these plots in different books. The fact that Failsafe alone is going to be involved, and Zdarsky's been working on that for like months now. That's going to be interesting to see how he handles that. You figure at some point Failsafe will leave the Batman book. Imagine that. Like, I figured at some point it was going to happen. Zdarsky would have to move on at some point. So,
well, we know Zdarsky is moving on to the Three Jokers as the main, or the new version of the Three Jokers that's been on recently. And we know that he's doing that with the with issue 50 or whatever. So that's coming up. So that's like his big. I think it's 150. So we'll see what he does with that as sort of his next focal point. But in terms of Failsafe, I find it interesting that Zdarsky's letting, I assume the Failsafe plot thread will end here and that Zdarsky gets to do it. But I like this approach. Obviously, we haven't seen the Brainiac Queen yet. We know that she's coming in House of Brainiac, right? And so I'm really excited this idea, like we're bringing in these plot threads from different books. And I feel like it's a big testament to the amount of connectivity that this era of DC has had, that I feel like there's been a really solid through line that's felt like earned. Whereas I think in Infinite Frontier, it felt very canned and forced. I feel like this has been very like natural, and we're getting to the climax, and you feel us reaching the climax via the pages of Wonder Woman, where like where the Amazons have lost a lot of favor, the pages of Titans, Beast World, where now the Titans have basically lost all of their goodwill, or a lot of it at least, and seeing this so like good. Fall of the superheroes as we head into this now Amanda Waller making her move. Like, I'm really excited to see where this goes. And I think these plot points all feel like they've been building together, which I feel like as DC rarely does successfully.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm going to say that another member that's going to be on that Task Force 7 is going to be Dark Raven.
Ooh,
yes. I think that's a good one. Yeah. Although, do you think Dark Raven is working for Trigon or working for Waller?
I think.
And do you think
she's in it for herself?
Because we've just seen that development where she's I can't remember what the hell it's called right now, but he says that her actual potential is to become that big huge ass monster that dwarfed him in the underworld. I don't know if you guys remember that from the last
turn into Venom Myotismon, and shout out to all my people that understand what that is.
I mean, I get the gist. As far as Mark Waid writing all of it, I think it's an immense undertaking for any writer to take on an event of that scale.
Yeah,
and do it all by themselves, and I'll have mad respect for that. Period. That said, I've always been a Mark Waid fan. A really big one up until he started with World's Finest, and I've never been able to get in line with it. So I hope that he's going to be writing something I can't get into. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, I think there's a couple interesting things with Mark Waid's journey at DC. Obviously, he has a lot of unique history with DC, and that he was like DiDio and him did not get along at all. And so for the longest time, he was basically shunned from DC. Like DC refused to hire him because DiDio didn't like him. But Mark Waid loves DC with a burning passion. Is like very close to his heart, right? And Superman Birthright is one of the best comics I think for Superman ever made. And Mark Waid was never allowed to write like a Superman ongoing, and now he comes to DC and he has like this idea to bring back sort of classic Superman with the Superman Batman story, and really uses that setup to set up sort of the beginning of this era of DC with Lazarus Planet, right? The Demon Neza and all of that foundational work. And I think it's really interesting that he sort of kicked off this era with Lazarus Planet, and now he gets to end it with Absolute Power. And I think in terms of other things that he's done, obviously you've got Shazam, but I think people don't talk about it a lot. But Tom Taylor talked a lot about how he owes a lot of Beast World's quality to Mark Waid, who really talked him through sort of the event and how to make it special. and I think Mark Waid understands DC and event writing on a very strong level that I'm really hopeful he gets to fully take advantage of. And I think a lot of the best events are ones where tie-ins work together really well, and there's a lot of connectivity. And I think Mark Waid writing all 25 issues will have an incredible connectivity, and I think could be a really good cap. But I think it also begs the question, if Mark Waid's writing these 25 issues, what comes after?
Excuse me. Like, is this the big culmination of the story?
I mean, yeah. Like, this is the Waller story that was teased at the beginning of Dark Crisis, right?
Yeah.
Where she enters this room of that's very what's the character? What are the characters from Young Justice with the white room?
Oh yeah, I don't remember their name, but
It's very
I haven't really gotten into that yet. So hopefully that gets teased a bit more in Absolute Power, or even revealed as to what the hell that is. There's 4 characters that showed up with her during that final page as well. And you saw Peacemaker and Peace Wrecker, which we've seen numerous times over the past few months across various books. But there was it was Dr. Hate, I think, was one of them, and that's been resolved now. But then there was also that kind of opposite fusion that Batman, Superman, and a Green Lantern ring had in World's Finest in the first arc.
Right.
And we had that opposite one that was very Lex Luthor, Sinestro Corps, and Joker inspired.
Yeah, so definitely this like hybrid Batman definitely is part of this event. It's one of the Dark 7 probably.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine, and because guess who, this is worth remembering, guess who created that character?
Exactly.
Mark Waid.
Mark Waid.
In World's Finest. So I definitely think that'll come up, and that'll be really cool. I'm just really happy with this. And I'm really excited to see where Amanda Waller goes with this. But I think in terms of what comes after, like, I do think this is the culmination of
I think
Dawn of the DC.
Dawn of DC.
Yeah, it'll be the culmination of the Dawn of DC overall, at least the first part. I think Dawn of DC as an initiative might end here, but the ongoing story will continue because there's still is the Justice League ever going to reform? Will the Titans regain favor? And a lot of that might be addressed in Absolute Power, but I think they could stretch that a bit further and have a bigger event. If you remember when Dawn of DC first launched, they had that roadmap, and then people were able to brighten the image, and you could see the hints.
Return of Justice League,
and that never fucking happened. I don't know if that's still going to be a thing, or if they scrapped that plan once Taylor said I could run like.
I think there was a quote recently. There was a quote recently that they had extended Dawn of the DC by 6 months because of how popular the sales had been.
Right.
And that they're officially ending the branding Dawn of DC with Absolute Power. So it's definitely the culmination there. And I guess what comes after will be interesting.
I do hope that it's not the end of the Titans being a preeminent team, if not the preeminent
I don't
team.
think it's the end.
Yeah. I really hope not.
I think that the Titans should stick around as the main team for a long time, at least a few years. And if they decide to cancel that title and go back to a Justice League, have a lot of those members on the Titans team be on the Justice League. Let's not go back to the core 7 and like a few of other heroes that have always been on the team before. Let's branch out. Let's do the was it Christopher Robinson wrote that Justice League right before Flashpoint, where you had Dick Bats, you had Donna Troy, you had Supergirl, you had Congarilla of all people, but you had all sorts of people that were never on the team before, and you had a pretty cool team, I thought.
Yeah, I think what I'm really curious about is, obviously, I think the Titans have reached the end of their honeymoon phase. Like, they had the time where they were the big people and it was easy, or relatively easy, right? And now that, like, now they're in some struggle, and how they get out of the hardship will be what I think will be really interesting from Absolute Power. But I also think one of the things I've really learned,
I'd say Beast World was a little bit of hardship.
No, the Beast World is the hardship, right? And this is the next step. Like, the Titans' honeymoon is over. They're no longer just like easily like, oh yeah, you're so good. Like, the stakes for them have risen.
Yeah.
You know, and the way like they're the representation of the superhero community, and they have to be on their A game. And they're like, you know, it's like they've been the president, but now they're past their first 100 days, and all of a sudden, like the jobs, everyone starts getting more negative and critical.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things I think works really well with Dawn of the DC has been that the Justice League being absent has enabled them to use the Justice League only for the biggest stories when they feel natural, and not have to create a side big plot for the Justice League to deal with that you need Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman to deal with.
Mhm.
And instead they can come in and come together when they're needed, and then go do their own things. And I think that feeling has been much more successful than, say, having a Scott Snyder's Justice League have to be the main story, or have it just be a Bendis, like, does not matter to anything. It's just here, side story.
No, don't say that.
But you know, when
I
you
know
have
what you're
to
saying.
create threats that the Justice League have to be able to fight every week
Yeah.
or every month that have significant stakes, you need all 6 of them for. Like, it drags the like stakes of the whole universe down.
I'm
Well,
gonna break Nathan
yeah.
right here. You know who I would like to see write a 6-issue, like deep breakdown of the Trinity and a few other members of the Justice League. I would love to watch maybe even 12 issues. Cy Spurrier do it.
I'm fine with Cy Spurrier. I'm not anti-Cy Spurrier.
Well, no, I didn't think you were anti-Cy Spurrier, but I thought maybe
Like,
you
excited.
disagree with the Cy Spurrier
Oh.
writing the Justice League.
I don't have the strongest opinions on Cy Spurrier. I think he's sort of like his like best niche is like this like sidekick sci-fi that he like really enjoys. And I don't know if that like works as well with the Justice League, but I'm not against it. I just don't have an opinion. I don't really have a serious opinion on it.
I think if we were to get Justice League stories, I think in order for them to be any good, they're going to have to be different. Even if, even more than just sporadic cosmic adventures where the Justice League has to be pulled together. I think we're going to have a different kind of Justice League story in order for anybody to really give a shit.
So let me pitch something here for a Justice League story. Like I've been periodically reading some old Grant Morrison Justice League run, and coincidentally around the same time, which is very reminiscent of Grant Morrison's run, was the Justice League cartoon and Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
And throughout the episodes there and the stories in Grant Morrison, you had a core team. You had the 7, you had extra members later on, but in each story arc, you weren't guaranteed the whole team. Sometimes you would just have 3 or 4 members. And I think that's fine. Like this is what made me think of this when Nathan said, like, how do you pull all 6 or 7 people every month for a new adventure and come up with a threat that everybody has to get through? You don't have to have everybody. You just have to have even some of the team, and then every so often you'll have a thread big enough for the whole team to be there. But for
sometimes you need 2 people, sometimes you need 20.
Yeah, like that's all it could necessarily be. And I think that's how you have a long-standing Justice League book that can remain fresh. You can create threads where you don't need to have 7 people going. You can get away with 3.
But I think part of the problem is, you said it right there, create threads. Yeah. Like, one of the problems with Justice League is it like forces you to have high stakes situations and like constantly, because otherwise, why are you bringing multiple superheroes together?
Well, and it has to be high stakes. It doesn't. Sorry, I have to interrupt.
No, it doesn't have to be. Yeah. But like, in order to have like an actual like story, like plot thread throughout the issues, like you need some sort of stakes you have to build. And I think one of the problems is when you're creating those threats for the Justice League book, you then like the threats of other books, say the Batman book, the Superman book, the Wonder Woman book, those stories then often feel either less important or feel like the main story. And it's really hard to balance like the Justice League connecting all these like threads together. Yeah. Right. And whereas if you don't have a Justice League book, all these threads can exist and feel like the main story. And then you do an event where you can bring threads together, where that's the focus. Which I think is what Absolute Power is doing, right? It's saying, hey, we have all these threads. We're ready for the big story that moves the macro narrative forward. Let's bring in Failsafe. Let's bring in Sergeant Steel and let's bring in Amanda Waller stuff from Green Arrow. Let's bring in all the stuff we've been building up with Suicide Squad Dream Team. Let's bring in the Brainiac Queen that's coming in, and let's bring in World's Finest amalgam character, right? And all these pieces will come together, and all of a sudden, if you're reading Superman, if you're reading Batman, if you're reading Wonder Woman, those like characters and stakes are there, and those stories that you've been reading are continuing in this moment. That I think is where I think superhero comics have the most ability to shine.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a Justice League book, you have to find ways to have that every week. And I think most writers say, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to do my own thing. That's why Bendis says, I'm going to just tell a story with Naomi's world.
Yeah.
You know, and because it's hard to connect all these things together. And I think it's way easier to just hold off on bringing these characters together until it really matters and you really want to connect everything. And I really like this approach. And the Titans are a great team to exist on their own solo title because they can have plot threads that are the Titans and not feel like they need to also have Superman's plot threads and Batman's plot threads all intertwined. Right? They can be the center of the universe and have like outreach, but not feel like they need to pull in everything and connect to everything.
Yeah. And it helps that there's only, if I remember right, only 2 members that even have an ongoing book.
Well, yeah, Wally, and Nightwing, and then Cyborg had the 6th issue.
Yeah, but that's already done, and that always to me felt like it could have taken place at any time period.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah,
but I think that's where why the Titans are the better center of the universe. And I do like some Justice League runs. I'm not like anti-Justice League, but I think it's really hard to pull off, and it requires a lot of coordination that this era of a lot of freelancing doesn't really enable. Like writers only have but so much time to try to coordinate with each other.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just harder to do.
Yeah, like I'll give Dawn of DC this. It definitely has a feeling of connectivity, especially with Absolute Power coming up, that I think was sorely lacking in Infinite Frontier.
Yeah.
Because you had all these books doing their own thing, and none of it really amounted to anything.
Dark Crisis kind of had some stuff, but like it felt very like shallow in what it was pulling in.
Yeah, like you had almost pockets here and there. You had Green Lantern doing his own thing. You had Shazam intertwining with Titans, and then you had Flash, which was intertwining with Titans, but also by itself, which was fantastic. But then it was intertwining with the stuff with Titans Academy and Suicide Squad and Earth 3, and that was doing its own thing, and everybody was just kind of spread so thin.
Yeah, there were clusters.
Plot. Yeah, it was.
But there wasn't
really
anything
weird
together. Yeah, Dark Crisis tried to bring in all the clusters, but a lot of it didn't make sense.
Yeah,
and then Williamson wanted to do his own thing, which with the Infinite Worlds, and it just did not work. But I think part of why I'm so excited for Wade is because I actually trust Wade to write the Justice League and to write the story.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Williamson has been consistently bad at team books. And not everything. Not everything. Superman's good. Green Arrow's been good. Batman Robin's been good. But team books he should stay away from. And I mean that, like, he said himself he's bad at writing team books.
Yeah.
So I don't have any sympathy for him when he writes team books and then people criticize him.
You should know better.
Yes. He said the reason why I left Justice League Odyssey was because I'm bad at writing team books. Like he said that in an interview.
Whole event.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm excited for what's coming up.
Yeah.
And then in terms of other DC news, Elseworlds has their schedule for when they're all coming out, which is cool. We have Gotham by Gaslight: The Kryptonian Age, which is the sequel to Gotham by Gaslight, coming out in June. Dark Knights of Steel All Winter, which is the sequel to Dark Knights of Steel, which is not written by Tom Taylor, but Jay Kristoff, is coming in July. DC vs. Vampires World War V is coming back with Matthew Rosenberg in August. And then Batman the Barbarian will be in September. Green Lantern Dark will be in October, and Batman Nightfire will be in November.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you guys have any thoughts on the return of Elseworlds?
I'm happy.
Yeah, I think it's about time that they just like cut the middle and just we're doing Elseworlds again. Like there was no need to stop doing that, and everybody kept calling it Elseworlds anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. They've been doing these alternate universe stuff, right? Yeah. So just like call it for what it is, and like
exactly. Like, why
Celebrate
did
and
you
like
stop
make it a big
calling it
deal.
that? Yeah, it didn't make sense. It became such a generic term in comic books, at least heavily with DC, that if it's an alternate universe, it's an Elseworld story. You don't have to call it that, but that's what we're going to call it. May as well
Mhm.
just follow it. Like,
Just
kinda
go
weird.
with it.
exactly.
Are there any of these that you're particularly excited for?
I'm down for more DC versus vampires. I'll admit.
Yeah, I mean, I gobble up pretty much everything Rosenberg spits out,
Yeah, like
and
I wasn't sold on
I
the
was a
second half, but I
fan.
was into it.
Oh, I was. I dug it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for the return of Dark Knights of Steel. I think it's such a fun universe,
It
and I'm
is.
really excited to
Mhm.
see what some other artists can do with it. All Winter, if I recall, is a Vandal Savage related thing, which I think is
Interesting.
one of the more interesting characters that could exist in this time period. Because
Mhm.
unlike many of these characters, like Vandal Savage was around theoretically when this world would have been. Like he would have already been on Earth.
Yeah, but what
So
kind
he's
of
very
character is he
naturally
gonna
fits
be?
here.
Yeah, really.
Because I mean, in Dark Knights of Steel, there's no telling.
I want to say he's going to be like a Genghis Khan type person, just leading a massive barbaric army to just.
Oh, here we go. I was wrong. It's Deathstroke is the focus.
Oh,
So the first issues, the solicit is the snow falls thick, blood runs black, and color itself is only a distant memory. The legendary assassin Deathstroke stalks the frozen wasteland, killing for a coin among a nation of ever-warring jarls. But when our murderer for hire finds himself cast in the role of reluctant guardian, will he fight to end the icy curse destroying his land, or be consumed by the sins of his own dark past? So it's a Deathstroke book, apparently.
in that world, it's not even going to include like
Viking
the
Deathstroke.
House of L or anything.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I'm
It could.
interested in
Viking
it.
Deathstroke.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. That
yeah.
makes more sense as to why it's not like a Tom Taylor story. It's just somebody saw this word. I'm like, I could play with this. Like, okay, I'm down for that.
I could have sworn that Tom Taylor also was working on a sequel, but
I thought so too.
But I can't find anything in my brief search for it.
I think he just hasn't announced anything. He has teased that he is working on something else soon, but he hasn't said what it is yet. Yeah.
Well, I assume after that we'll have like the next wave of like stories after Absolute Power.
Yeah.
Right, and I assume he's writing one of those at least. But there's also some rumors in the midst from like Bleeding Cool about a potential Ultimate DC universe.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we haven't had anything from that yet.
There's a rumored Scott Snyder book coming that may or may not be called Metal Force.
Metal Force?
DC Metal Force.
Oh boy.
I enjoyed metal, I enjoyed death metal, but what in the sweet hell is Metal Force?
Metal Force. So there's some stuff percolating in the background that we'll probably see come post Absolute Power, but I'm very excited. On that note,
there's one thing I'll say about I forgot to mention about Mark Waid writing this is when it comes to Shazam and World's Finest et al, I'll say they've been very almost lighthearted and fun, but I think this could be a return to his more serious writing that we saw in the 90s and 2000s.
I think so.
Yeah, a story like that, I do not see it being very fun and lighthearted like Shazam and World's Finest have been. I don't think there's a possible way. So we'll see. And maybe that means Josh will love it.
I mean, Beast World was tragic.
Classic Mark Waid. I'll be lining up to buy it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you before we jump in, if that's not a testament, if anybody out there hasn't read Beast World, if there's a book that both Nathan and I love, you've got to read it because that shit don't happen. That's like finding two moons in the sky, man. And Beast World was where it was at. That was so good. I was emotionally gripped in that story. Just to have Raven shit all over my feelings.
Yeah. If only Animal Man was in the story more, maybe Brandon would have read it too.
Right.
True.
I'm still just like dumbfounded that we didn't have more Buddy Baker in a title called Beast World. Like,
It
Right.
is
We
wild.
had one panel of them screaming.
yeah.
I mean, there's some plot threads I'm very much looking forward to. There's the like female Beast Boy like hidden somewhere.
yeah,
There's-
Beast Girl.
And like
well, I think she's got
Beast-
an actual name, but
I don't remember what her name is.
Yeah.
But I thought Beast World was really tragic and like emotional
oh
and
god,
dark.
yeah.
And like it
for
resolves
sure.
somewhat happily, but also like with Amanda Waller making her power. And I think like that vibe, but like if the stakes ramped dramatically up, I think is where superhero comics can really shine when you're fighting against oppressors. And in this case, you've already built themes of fighting against hatred with Wonder Woman. You know, these Amazonians are outcast, very much a symbol of queer oppression, of the oppression of queer people, because the Amazons are basically an island full of lesbians, right? And I think I'm really excited to see like those sorts of themes come up and really be a focus in a way that I think Superman could be at his best when he doesn't have a lot of his powers and has to find strength elsewhere. So I'm really excited for what's to come.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Amazons, let me go ahead and jump into honorable mentions real quick, where we will. I'll bring them up later on in the bonus show. But what we've got this week is Amazon's Attack number 5, Power Girl number 6, The Penguin number 7, and breaking that trend of counting, Batman, The Brave and the Bold number 10.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about those later.
There really wasn't an 8th issue at all this week. There was a 9.
There was
Damn
a
it.
9.
There was a 9. Oh well. Yeah. I'll be honest. I don't think I read any of those this week.
Well,
I
that's
haven't
what
yet.
I'm here for.
Yeah. Not
Punish
that
myself for everybody else.
I haven't been interested. I just haven't gotten around to those yet. I instead spent my time reading this week's Power Rangers because I'm a nerd.
I hear Power Rangers is thriving right now.
It is fantastic. I was just thinking about it last night, and in my head I was going through the story arc. They got a new creative team in issue 100. We just got issue 117, and it's still one long ongoing story that started with the core team of the Mighty Morphin Rangers and now has brought in like every fucking team you could ever think of. And it's fucking massive.
Oh my god, I just remembered. We didn't talk about the biggest news story of last week. DC Comics is moving to Wednesdays again.
Oh yeah. I heard you told us about it, but I didn't see anything on the news about it, so I forgot.
How do you guys feel about that?
I liked it coming out on Tuesdays.
Yeah. It was
Like a
nice.
lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss it.
It felt special.
I'm gonna miss it. It makes sense. Like they only have to go to comic book shop one day, and that can be Wednesday. That's easy.
I mean,
But
most
also-
people would just go on a Wednesday anyway and get their DC, get their Marvel, get their Image, get whatever.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's funny because didn't Image just move to Tuesdays?
Mhm.
Like one of the other like third
Yep.
level publishers just moved to Tuesdays. So it's funny because now they're alone.
Like, why is DC moving to? Because the whole reason they went to Tuesdays in the first place because they switched publishing companies.
It's because it's retailers want Wednesdays because they have to deal with 2 final order cutoffs for each week. They have to deal with 2 different shipping sets. Like just everything's more complicated because you have 2 sales days. Like, and they're just like, can we just consolidate it all into one day for just the amount of work it takes to get it set up each week.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I like
suppose.
Tuesdays. As someone who mostly reads digital, I love Tuesdays, and then
That's what
Wednesdays
I'm
are for
saying.
Marvel.
There you go. Yeah, you can split it up evenly. That just means we have one less day to prepare before we record on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're Brandon and you secretly get all your comics early.
Yeah.
Secretly,
Lucky
not
guy.
secretly.
I would ask Brandon to pick up extra copies and ship them to me, but it would take a week to get here anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that would help.
No.
Yeah.
Let's drive to the border every Monday. Meet me there.
He's got all his schoolwork and he has to drive to your house with all of that week's copies.
Oh no, we'll
so you can
meet
get him on
halfway.
time.
We're both about
Oh,
3 hours
yeah.
from the border, so
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
A little 6-hour round trip ain't never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
You know, a weekly 6-hour round trip.
Yeah, we'll go to Niagara Falls, pick one of the sides every week, go for a drink, read some comics. Bob's your uncle. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Bob.
Never
All
understood.
right, what do you
Bob Ray,
guys say
unfortunately.
that we get into some of these books, huh?
Let's do it. Let's shoot on over to our 1st book.
Yeah, Green Arrow number 9.
I did it, Josh.
It is.
You did it.
This was definitely the big book of the week. The most reveals, most meat to talk about. With Beast World at an end, Waller now possesses control over the Hall of Order, formerly the Hall of Justice. She has all of its top tech defenses, with the exception of some of the magic layers, which she hasn't figured out yet. And Oliver Queen is still searching for Roy. So he does what anyone who wants to find Amanda Waller would do, sneak into the new Hall of Order to confront her. But he gets caught because obviously there's all these defenses. It's near impossible to get through now. So after waking from being knocked out, Waller explains that she has a mysterious benefactor that brought her back from Earth 3. She realized that superheroes are all variations of the same thing, and that Earth 3 was no different from the Earth Prime. Or is it Earth 0 or Earth Prime right now? Whatever.
Earth 0. Right?
Earth 0? Okay.
Yeah.
So she's been separating Oliver's family to force him to come to her. Green Arrow agrees to help Waller, and Waller asks him to steal none other than the sanctuary from Heroes in Crisis.
Thanks,
with all
Tom
the
King.
traumas and terror, and with all the traumas and personal therapy sessions of all of the superheroes in existence.
Yes, the only good thing to come out of Heroes in Crisis.
Yes. Then in a side plot, Connor finds Diggle and asks him for help taking down Merlin.
Which that was exciting as well as a Green Arrow fan. To see
the return of Diggle?
Back. Yeah, to see not only the return of Diggle, but Connor and Diggle interacting.
And then last but not least, just because I forgot to say him earlier, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Sean Izaki and colorist Romulo Fajardo Jr.
Right on. All right. You want to give us your rundown, like say your piece about it?
Yeah, I think it's a 5 out of 5. I don't think you can get much better than for a post-event epilogue sort of like aftermath story. It gave us a lot of the questions we had from Green Arrow, reestablished sort of the new world that is Waller's rise to power. And it both feels natural within the Green Arrow book itself, but also coming out of Beast World. I think it all fits in together really well. I think it's a little light on plot because it spends so much of its time world building, but that's kind of what you want from an aftermath issue. And I think some of its reveals and teases make me more excited for what's to come rather than less, including specifically a lot of the stuff with Earth 3. I think it was one of the biggest questions with Waller's return was like, oh, we're ignoring the fact that Waller like literally disconnected herself from the multiverse entirely to create her own world where she was fully in charge. And now she's back. And like, I'm glad we're getting some teases there. And I'm really excited to see what those answers are when they come. I think some of the Green Lantern's Malcolm Merlin specific stuff I'm not quite sold on but that this issue didn't really have a lot of that. So I'm more than okay with the reveal that Diggle's back and some of this post emphasis. I really like this issue. It's so interesting, and I couldn't really ask for anything more. I love the return of Heroes in Crisis. One of my favorite things in comics is when they take an idea that was like rough at the time and critically panned, but they take like the one or two good ideas from it and are like, this event we want to be important for a long time to come, and we're bringing these things back to pay homage to that event and that time and those ideas. And I think Sanctuary is a perfect thing that makes total sense for Waller to want to go after. Yeah. Because who doesn't want Superman's therapy sessions in video form?
Yeah. Like there's a lot of data to scrounge through from all sorts, and not even just heroes, but villains too. Like any metahuman that ever existed. And that if that's what Waller's going for, that we'll see this summer, like it just makes sense.
Yeah. What do you think, Rob?
Pencils, fantastic. I love the art throughout the issue, but that's been an ongoing for this entire run. I love the art in Green Arrow. The story, I am sold on. I am And I forgot to mention this again. I forgot to mention when we were talking about Absolute Power. I'm tired of Amanda Waller. Just
so tired of Amanda
yeah,
Waller.
not like just I'm so tired of her. Just like I'm tired of her being the focal point all the time. Like she's not to me that interesting a character anymore. Like she's been done to death over the past 10 years. So I'm kind of just bored of Amanda Waller.
Preach.
Do you think though? Because I think one of the things that makes this version of Amanda Waller really work is it's the idea that she's like superheroes are the problem, and I need to make the world see that like metahumans. Yeah, right. But I think the difference is she's been very much this more. I work for the government. I need this thing done. Let's get this thing done. Mm-hmm. And I think her current lens is a lot more like, how do I make the world see that superheroes are like these godlike beings who, even if they care about you, they don't really care about you because they exist on a level that's like above where humanity exists, and humanity can't fight for itself. They have to rely on heroes, and how to take that ownership, I think, is really interesting. And the way that she weaponizes hatred and misogyny, homophobia, etc., to get there, and is like feels very current to the times. A lot of the ways that those sorts of sentiments exist, and I think it really works in that sense, where she's like dark patriotism, but I think in a way that's more focused on like the government and power versus like Earth 3, where it's like, oh, I have the side thing and I'm really focused on myself. This is very different. And I like this version of Amanda Waller. But I do wonder, is a lot of your Amanda Waller struggle mostly to do with like general media or like the comic stuff specifically? Because I feel like she hasn't been in a lot of comics over the last like 3 years.
Oh, that's well, I mean like 10 years, but like
sure.
Like
she's
even
been showing up
even
all
in the
over
movies, she was in Green Lantern in 2011. She was in like a few different Elseworlds titles. The whole thing from War for Earth 3 still left a bad taste in my mouth.
It was a fine event. It was a fine event.
Oh, I couldn't stand that whole freaking story. And I enjoy Earth 3 stories. I like the Crime Syndicate. I was so tired of that story.
Like, here's my question. If the Suicide Squad movie and Peacemaker didn't come out, are you annoyed by Amanda Waller's presence here as much?
Oh, no, I love Peacemaker. It's her in the comics. It's just the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's a one-trick pony. It's not
Lex Luthor has evolved as a character. The Joker has evolved as a character. Catwoman, Deathstroke, you fucking name it. Amanda Waller is the same character she's been for I mean, at the least 15 years.
Yeah, like I don't even know when her first.
I'm a soldier. Fuck superheroes. Even if the people don't realize that superheroes are the real threat, I'm gonna take care of it anyway. And
like if this is a story that basically puts a pause on her for a while, I'm okay with it. Like I'll still read. I'm still be excited about it. Sorry, again, I'm talking about Absolute Power. And like. I'll still tie this to Green Arrow. Like this is leading into Absolute Power, definitely. But just with Amanda Waller, like Josh was saying, and like I said, just one trick pony. It's been the same thing over and over and over again. And her stuff in the movies, she was very minor in, but she was still like she was there. That's my point.
Yeah.
And you see her a lot, and I don't find her very interesting. You know. Like there was, I don't even remember what it was, but there was a story that tried to give her some kind of tragic backstory, and I thought that was interesting, but then it was just completely forgotten about, and we never saw it. Oh, I think that was Suicide Squad during Infinite Frontier, because I remember telling my dad like, "Oh, this is so cool." He's like, "That's not Amanda Waller. That's dumb." But that's besides the point. Like that whole tragic thing is like, okay, we're finally getting a layer to Waller, and then it was never brought up again. And now we're just getting, here she is using bureaucracy as a weapon. And she's like Lex Luthor with less steps.
Yeah, but I think there's like different sides to Amanda Waller. There's the like, I'm pro war crimes Amanda Waller, which is very like focused on emphasizing sort of like foreign wars, like black ops in the same way as like the CIA. And then there's like the Amanda Waller that's like representative of sort of the government as a whole. And I really enjoyed this version of Amanda Waller a lot. And I think Amanda Waller has been done a lot. And I remember when Dark Crisis said, and they were like, oh yeah, Amanda Waller's the next big bad. It was like, ugh. But I also think she's one of the few characters that can really connect the DC universe together. And I think her actions are something that every hero has to pay attention to. Whereas I think the actions of a lot of the other big bads are like not that way.
That's fair. And there's something you mentioned there that kind of put it in a different light for me. If you look at this ongoing story as government versus superheroes, that is one thing. And if you need a piece to play that role, yeah, I could see Amanda Waller. If it's just Amanda Waller going after heroes, I'm kind of like, whatever.
Well,
but if there's going to be more, and it's going to be like a government with Amanda Waller is like the chess piece they're using to move those moves, then I'm all for that.
That's what all the anti-Amazonian stuff is. That's what Sergeant Steele is. Like, he is these other pieces of government that work with Amanda Waller, but are like part of the government force that's becoming more and more anti-metahuman.
Yeah. And yet the president was all for the Titans.
Well, until the president said, yeah, but you can kill the 2 million people who are still animals.
Oh, I mean, after that, yeah, like after even after he was like he wasn't cool with Waller doing that, and then Nightwing broke into his office. They saved the first lady. He was like, maybe you guys aren't so bad.
Yeah, but the government is more than just one branch.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I mean. But like when you have the chief, like this is like nuts to me when it comes to like politics and bureaucracy. Like you have the chief of staff, you have the leader of the country, and the same thing happens in Canada too. They say one thing, and everybody's. I get opinions will go, but just like you'd think the government would follow suit. Yeah. You don't need the people to follow suit. I understand that completely, but you think at least the government would follow suit. But no, you'd think.
So Josh, what are your thoughts on this issue?
I think the art in the issue is great. I enjoyed just about every panel. I, in contrast to Rob, have not enjoyed Porter's work. This is great. Except for the last page, I didn't like the way that Harley was drawn. But
what do you mean, Porter?
Porter was on Green Arrow before.
Was he? I thought it was always his cousin.
No, Howard Porter was drawn for a little while. Well, Ollie was bouncing back and forth across time and fighting old Ollie that ended up being.
I'm looking at issue 3 right now. It's Kazi.
Really? Well, Porter was in there somewhere. I like Kazi better than him for sure. Anyway,
Phil Hester.
Phil Hester.
Yeah, well, he was in for like one issue.
Okay, well, it's that visually assaulting that was stuck in my mind the whole time. But yeah, I think the art and colors really shine here. Phenomenal job. And surprisingly, this is the first issue of Williams' run that has me interested in the story. But that doesn't mean much to me because he's got a history of not delivering. So we will see. As for this issue, though, the future can't affect the score. This was actually good enough to not hate reading it. I gave it a very surprising 7.5 out of 10.
Right on. I'm sold on the story. I'm down for Diggle. I'm very interested in what's going on. Waller aside, I'm just happy there's a Green Arrow book. I keep saying that every month, and I'm sold on this. So this is 8.5 out of 10.
Oh, you guys use 10s, don't you? I'm a fan of the 5 system. That's okay.
That's right. 5 out of 5. We can call it. You're giving a full.
Okay, then it's a 9. If I have to go on with 10, it's a 9. It's not like a 10 out of 10. It's a 9 out of 10. But I tend to use the 5 system for comics. But yeah, really happy with it. I'm also happy with our next issue.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to do my best to speed through that one. Written by Cy Spurrier, art and colors inside and out by Mike Diodato Jr. and Trish Mulvihill, with lettering by Hassan Atsmani Al-How. We've got the Flash number 6. It's activity date night. And I immediately went, oh no. But it's not a date issue, thank goodness. It was Wally's idea, and this issue it's about Wally and Barry in the stillness. but it's just as much about Linda. Before we get into the super stuff, it is activity date night, and for Wally and Linda, apparently that means Linda riding on Wally's back as he responds to emergencies.
Normally they do that behind doors.
Oh my god.
So Linda, she's not feeling right. She loves Wally, she loves her family, but ever since she lost her powers around that time, she feels empty. But it affects more than that. It affects all of her, including her feelings. So, I mean, hopefully this ends on a good note. Now, as far as the hero stuff goes, Wally runs to where some of the uncoiled are, but Barry is already there. In fact, through the whole book, Barry is, for some reason, faster than Wally. Wally has this new dimensional sidestepping ability, and it seems that by gaining that, he's lost control of his powers. So him and Barry talk with the stillness, which of course are speaking all weird and archaic, and they hand Barry a weapon and say, I mean, basically that he is their chosen one, whatever this is all about. As they begin to run again, Barry starts getting this weird glow in front of him that looks like someone's grandma's glasses. And he starts being a real douchebag to Wally. It becomes quickly apparent that he's under the influence of the stillness. Don't worry though, because the insults end with Barry stabbing Wally with the weapon.
I was not okay, so I'll be honest with you right now. It was not apparent to me at all.
No,
I thought Barry was just. This is not Barry. What the fuck is like? I hate this issue of Size Barry or what? He doesn't get Wally. Doesn't get Barry. Like what the fuck's going on? When you say he's under the influence of the stillness, okay, makes a bit more sense.
He's under the influence of something. It's not quite clear. It's the stillness. The stillness likes Barry because he doesn't have a lot of like connections, whereas Wally is like emotionally traumatized and emotionally has a lot of like mental weight. Like Barry doesn't, because Barry can't hold anything substantial to save his life.
Yeah, that's a personality flaw.
Yeah, Barry personally can't handle any sort of relational like connection that's like deep and like long-term commitment. That's like a long-term commitment. So he's very like emotionless, which lets him go faster, while Wally is so carried down and like burdened by these emotions lately that he's slower than he used to be, which I find really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Going on with the book, there's some unidentified people in the cells that are remotely watching all of this go down with Barry and Wally and all of that, the stabbing and whatnot. And it turns out the whole thing was a ruse to make Wally their conduit, with the end game being that they plan to use him to spread a virus that will cause time to stand still, the Corona Contrarium, or the Crown of Thorns. That's what we see on the last page, an evil-looking reverse Flash with some smaller panels of Grodd and others. Man, I didn't think this was the story that we would end up seeing Thawne in. That's crazy. I was completely surprised. I've kind of been into this Flash run quite a bit because of its uniqueness. I know it's not everybody's favorite, but I've been enjoying it. And surprisingly, bringing in Thawne at that last page didn't temper the feeling of being interested in it. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this run because I'm so damn curious. And while we've definitely said it before, Deodato's physiology is a bit extreme pretty often, I did dig the majority that was here in this issue. And I mean, I really like that I could tell which Flash was which without even so much as a half a second of a thought. I walked away pretty impressed with this issue. 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, Wally wasn't as creepy this issue.
Yeah,
I will say
he wasn't doing a lot of smiling though.
Yeah, so that's good. Good, I'll say, for the first time ever, Wally's not smiling. Thank God.
Right.
So I'm realizing something just now, and I'll have to amend my score after the revelation that Barry was under the influence of something. I thought that was just him being a dick and very out of character. But Where was I going with this? Yeah, so I'll have to amend my score. That being said, though, I'm realizing reading this, I'm getting the same feeling I got the first time I went through Grant Morrison's The Green Lantern, where I was not completely so. I knew there was something there that I just couldn't see yet, but I wasn't completely sold on it. And it wasn't until a couple of years passed after the run completely finished, I went back and I read the whole thing in one go.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I see it for what it truly is. I appreciate this more. So maybe, just maybe, that's what needs to happen with the Flash. We just need to give it, for those of us like myself that aren't completely sold on this, and you feel like there's something there, you just don't know what it is, just give it time, and maybe give it a reread once the first 12 issues are done. Maybe that might put things in a better perspective, because it certainly did me with Grant Morrison's Green Lantern. I'm still not in love with this issue, because I'll admit I was lost most of the time.
Really?
Yeah. The art was definitely not as jarring this time, and I agree, like I was able to differentiate between Wally and Barry very easily, so I was happy about that. I'll still give this issue, I'll bump it up to like 6.5.
Whoa, he hated
Whoa, that
that.
is low.
I'm
And
not
Canadian
in
six-
love. I'm not in
Uh-uh.
love with the Flash right now. I'm not in. This is not Wally for me. Okay,
Rob
I'm
giving
sticking
it
to
a
that.
6.5 is like me saying it's a 4, maybe even a 3.5.
Yeah,
He does not like it.
maybe a 7 on a good day, but
There you go.
I'm 6, so it's not a good day.
Hey, Jams Toaster, Nathan's been hollering at you. Thanks for watching, and give us a follow, man.
Hell yeah.
So there are different types of foods, just like there are different types of comics. There's candy, there's meat, there's vegetables, there's dessert. You've got this full gamut. There's the appetizers. To me, this book series is like very well cooked vegetables. Like
Very
it
well-cooked,
is
like well
well-cooked
done.
vegetables. Yeah, like really tasty vegetables.
Okay.
Like it's
Okay.
a lot of work to get through. It's at times not the most rewarding, but you can tell it's making like yourself and like the world around you in some ways like healthier. And I think what this book is doing feels a bit like that. I think one of the reasons I think you were struggling a bit, Rob, is because it is some work to get through. You know, it has a lot of ideas that it throws at you at really rapid pace, and a lot of themes that are really meaty and worth exploring that I think are really make it really high quality and have
You need a lot of things you need to connect. Like you need to okay, this happened over here, and it feels like that scene in Always Sunny where Charlie was working in the mailroom.
It's very philosophical. I mean, it's very philosophical. It's full of sci-fi, like this, like sort of
Science.
pseudo science that's very inspired by like psionic like connection. It reminds me a lot of Legion of his book with Legion. What was it with Nightcrawler and Legion? Was it called Legion of X? But very metaphorical and like these lofty ideas that I think really work. And I think this idea of like speed and like that to run that fast, you have like this lightness about you, but you're carried down by emotional weight is really powerful. But I also think there's lots of different ways that it's really interesting. Like the idea that you have the son who of course can like teleport when he's in trouble, and the idea that like there are different types of ways you could interact with Speed Force. You know, there's speedsters like Bolt who have like short dashes, but then you have like now there's more of an exploration around like what the Speed Force is. And I'm hoping we get some more answers about the Strength Force and some of these other forces that have been discussed. And I think at the core of all of this, there's the sense that like the world that Wally and Barry have been living in for the longest time of their knowledge of the Speed Force was like, it was like good. But now it turns out there was like another order of magnitude more complexity that they are first exploring. And I think as readers, we're also getting bits and pieces of it. And I think every issue, we're getting an extra piece of it. The first issue was about sort of the idea that like that when Wally is using his powers, like he is damaging the Speed Force in some capacity. The third issue focused on the idea, or the fourth issue was like the idea of like the like realm swapping and like the idea that there's like a realm of concept past space and time. Then there's the fifth issue really focused on the idea of like the shaper. And I think this issue really lends into, okay, now that we've learned some of these pieces, like what does this mean for Wally? And this idea that Wally is now being forced to choose between the safety of the Speed Force and reality as a whole, and his connection and weight to the people around him that he cares deeply about. You know, when his son is injured, Wally is willing to destroy, like shatter the world to save his son and protect him. And now he's forced to make sort of that question where like, do I give up some of that emotional baggage to keep the Speed Force and reality healthy? Or do I give everything up? And I think this dynamic is incredibly compelling and enjoyable. And I know, and like, it's not the most fun thing to get through. It's not the most satisfying, but I think what it's doing is really powerful, smart, and intricate and well crafted in ways that make me really feel like him, like Cy Spurrier is being at the top of his craft right now.
Sure.
And for me, it's a 9 out of 10, leaning on getting close to a 10 out of 10. I think this book is fantastic, and I love that he's unpeeled this next layer of this like organization of some sort that's surrounding the events going on. And I really can't wait for what's coming next with this book.
I'm going to give it another shot when I'm not dealing with a fever. Maybe that might be a root cause for my disdain for this issue.
I think it helps. I think it really helps to go back through it. I think in the same way that like, but I think it's a much better version of what Morrison likes to do with his weirdness. I think Cy Spurrier is a little bit more deliberate and clearly has a lot more of a clear vision on what exactly is going on and does give you the pieces to it. Whereas Morrison's like, here's a weird idea, let's throw it in here. I think there's a lot more deliberateness here. And because I recently went back and right before I read this issue, I went back and read 5 and reminded me a lot about the connections of his son, right, to everything. And Jay's sort of like, which of course culminates in Jay deciding he doesn't want to be a superhero. But I think like having reread that issue and re-looking at the idea of a shaper and then coming back to this, it felt like this was now let's bring in some of those threads together and like some of the new ideas. And I'm really happy with it. But there's still lots of questions to answer. And I'm excited to get the answers to those questions.
Yeah, my biggest question is, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, that is the premise of the book. But like, they are revealing new pieces, right? Like that is part of why it's working for me. It's because I am getting more answers as we go on. I now understand some of the language, not like, what the hell is the stillness? I'm like, okay, there's some sentient species that's looking on, and like we're getting some sense, and but like there's still questions, but I think I'm understanding the language more now. Whereas before it was very like, where it's like you're learning as you go, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it never goes stale. For a slower story, it never feels stale, and that's impressive to me.
And I love the like each story, individual issue is its own story, but there is a clear arc throughout it that I like.
Indeed. And speaking of arcs that we like,
yeah. Speaking of the Flash, it's now going back to the Golden Age. Well, the new Golden Age, and technically the present day as well, is Jay Garrick, the Flash, numero 5, number 5 for those that speak non-Canadian. So this is written by
Canadian.
There's got to be some Canadians listening to this yelling at me. I'm not from Quebec, asshole. I'm from Ontario and I speak French. What's your problem? All right, so this is written by Jeremy Adams, with art from Diego Orletegui, colors from Luis Guerrero, and letters from Steve Wands, with a very nice cover, as you can see on our screen right now, from Jorge Corona and Sarah Stern. So picking up where we last left in issue 4, Jay and wow, I forgot her freaking name.
Judy.
Judy, thank you. I just wanted
Judy
to say,
Boom.
I just wanted to say the Boom, but like, what's her real name? So Jay and Judy are running away from bullets from Professor Hughes' android, who is killing excuse me, Mr. Slate from revealing any of his secrets. Professor Hughes, as we found out last issue, is actually Dr. Alchemy. So Jay does what he can to take down the robots and is able to incapacitate her for the time being. But this is when Dr. Alchemy takes over remote control of the robots and is now speaking to Jay through her, revealing some not really information, but revealing all he knows, knowing what Jay knows, and then reveals that there's a bomb on the back of the robot's head. So Jay and Judy run as fast as they can and get everybody out of the building. But unfortunately, Mr. Slate has died. So any information they could have gotten is now gone.
Bye-bye.
Yep. And the last thing Jay says before they run off to the next adventure is, we need to catch him because that's what Flashes do. So they head straight to Brazil in the City of the Sun, aka Natal, where they meet an old friend, which is Peter. Oh my God. Pieter Cross, which you may remember is the not Hour Man. Wow, Dr. Midnight from the 90s. I believe it was the 90s, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a long time since he's been around, but he's here and it's just fun right off the bat. Calling Jay Joel Ciclone, and meeting Judy and just getting the backstory on that. So they go to his secret lab, and excuse me.
No.
As they're discussing about what's going to happen next, where Peter bets Jay that they're very safe here, to bet you that Dr. Alchemy has no idea you've even entered the country. As Jay says, "I'll take $100 bills, thank you." As the alarm goes off, and Peter gives him the $5 because Robert and a robot army has converged on the shack which houses the secret laboratory. So Jay and Pieter get dressed as well as Judy, but Jay wants Judy to stay behind because Dr. Alchemy wants her, and he's going to do whatever he can to keep her out of his hands. However, that was a bad idea because as Judy is left alone in the base, she gets tired of waiting, decides she's going to run off, but is found by Dr. Alchemy nonetheless within the secret laboratory. And thanks to some well-placed robots, she gets tranquilized and is then taken away by Dr. Alchemy. Jay and Pieter have a lot of fun taking down Robert and the robot army. And as Jay interrogates Robert, Robert reveals that Dr. Alchemy might already be here. So he runs into the lab to find Judy, but Judy is gone. And that is when Jay and Pieter reveal, as they interrogate Robert one more time, that he can't teleport because Pieter found his teleportation device, and now they're going to get any info they want out of Robert. Leaving a father to go to any lengths to find his daughter. This has become Taken, starring Liam Neeson, and I'm all for it.
I have a particular set of skills.
Yeah. Fucking Liam Neeson playing Jay Garrick. I never knew I wanted that. I'm kind of sold on that. Yeah. Right. So this series has been a lot of fun. Just seeing Jay and Judy get to know each other again, and just our introduction really to Judy in the grander DC universe. Excuse me. It's been a lot of fun. I love the art. The story's interesting. I'm sold on this connection, even though it takes place in modern day. It's still connecting to Jay's origins. I've seen the term retconning his origin thrown around a lot online, but I really don't think it's retconning his origin. I think it's just adding an element to it and taking what was already established and then just adding in a part that we wouldn't have seen at the time to really... Hilarious. What?
Oh, you said adding an element to Jay, and well, that's how he got his superpowers.
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even catch that. But yeah, like it's just adding to the origin, which I think is really interesting. And it's working. Like I like Dr. Elemental. I love the relationship with Jay and Judy. And seeing Pieter Cross come back, at least for a one-off, maybe he's going to stick around for the final issue. Like I'm sold on this. It's been a great run. Jeremy Adams, you could do no wrong. God love you, man.
It sure doesn't seem like it, does it?
Yeah, so far, stellar work from Jeremy Adams. All right, so I'm gonna give this my highest score of the episode. To no surprise, it's gonna 8.75 out of 10.
Right on, man. Right on. I guess that is the end of the books, huh?
Yeah, but you two have to give your review.
Oh, I do have to give my review.
It's not just me.
I mean, it's Rob, you kind of summed it up pretty damn good, exactly how I feel. Adams is so damn good at writing all kinds of different characters in all kinds of different books, and every one of his issues I read makes me really impatient for the next one. And I love Orlategui's art, dude. It just bangs. It's awesome. Really, really liking this book, and specifically this issue. I gave it an 8.25 out of 10.
Yeah, especially some of the panels or we had with Dr. Midnight. They look so good.
Yeah,
like it's not stellar. It's not like pop in your face. It's just like that's a really cool action shot, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
agreed. Where were you at, Nate Dogg?
I don't get the love for this book. I want to be that person.
I got that sense. I could see some of your facial expressions when I was giving my review. I'm like,
I'm reactive.
Oh no!
But it's not that it's a terrible book. It's just that like it feels very run of the mill and very basic. Like I don't think I think the one thing it has going for it, it's the thing it's had going for it throughout, which is that like it's introducing Judy into this world and her relationship to her father, right? But outside of that, like this book isn't giving me anything compelling. The villains aren't really all that interesting. The like plot in general just isn't really caring. I don't really care for Judy much in this issue. Like her character's been interesting in some other issues, but this issue isn't really giving anything compelling. I don't really think Jay was super compelling in this issue, and I just feel like it didn't quite work. It's not terrible. It's just very like if I were to write the average superhero comic, this is what that is.
Yeah, that's fine.
And to consider this the best book of the week actually blows my mind.
It's not. It's just the best of the three we've talked about.
Of the three, actually blows my mind because it is not there for me. Like it just feels very rote, and so it's a 6. It's okay. If you like what they're doing with Golden Age, like absolutely go read it. But I don't think this is even the best. This isn't the best Golden Age book by like far. Like Green Lantern is way better. So it's just not really working for me.
Yeah, I can agree. I think the Green Lantern, Alan Scott Green Lantern, might be the best of the 3 Golden Age series so far. I'm not completely sold yet. Like I say yet on Sandman. I'm just not that into the story, I think.
I'm just not into Wesley Dodds. You could not make me like love Wesley Dodds. It's just not happening. So I'm like, good for you people who like him. I'm just like, I have no real opinion.
Fair enough. With this, I'm just, maybe it's because of my own semi-recent like getting my own daughter, and I'm just like I'm getting that vibe from Jay. Like, all right, I'm in this with you. I'm loving that, and maybe that's what it is for me.
And look, if it's clicking with you, I'm really happy. I'm really happy for you. It doesn't work for me.
I can agree with you for sure. It is like your run of the mill superhero book. Like sometimes that's what we need.
Sure, I think what makes like the premise of these Golden Age books is taking these like new inserts into the Golden Age and lore and characters, and then creating new stuff to make these characters deeper and richer. Right, that is what Alan Scott is doing. You know, it's taking his story and using a lot of these new ideas and inserts to really flesh out Alan Scott as a character in ways that are really emotional, heart-wrenching, and compelling. You know, and this just isn't doing much of that. Like I feel more like cameo work.
I mean,
I
it's,
feel
it's
like-
adding to Jay for sure. With
Sure,
the,
sure. I mean, but it's
I
not.
feel like those are two totally different kinds of stories, though, because Alan's is essentially a complete retelling and a way more in-depth look at basically his origin, or like year one kind of stuff, whereas this is almost Boom's year one. And it's like Jay trying to bring her into the world. That's what I'm getting from this, is that they're using the Jay Garrick book to make Boom a more prominent hero.
But because of that, I don't feel like the Golden Age part is really doing anything for me. Like, it's not like
No.
what I like about the Golden Age, which is these new inserts. I'm not really getting a lot of that. Instead, it feels like this character just like, I don't know, it just feels a little forced. But I'm not, I think it's an okay book. It's a very average superhero book. It's not objective. It's not bad. It's just, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's about all I have to say on it.
Well, then what do you got to say about the rest? You got a top 3 and favorite moment, Nathan?
I guess my favorite moment of the week is the moment where we get the reveal of Heroes in Crisis being part of this upcoming plot thread. My mind was genuinely blown. I think it's so smart and so clever and really works. And then in terms of my top books of the week, I'll be honest, I have not finished everything this week. I'm working through it still. I have had a busy college week of college, and getting through everything is painful. I'm also not on top of Detective Comics, so I know Brandon loves it. I have not been reading all of it. I did really like the Penguin issue this week, and I like what they're doing with Amazon attacks, but I'm not. Like, it's like slightly above average, but it's kind of in the same vein as what I was talking about with Jay Garrick. I just like a lot of the like themes around the Wonder Woman,
at least
like Wonder Woman's lore right now.
Of the books you've read anyway, or at least the books we covered today, what would you rank them?
I mean, it's Green Arrow 1, Flash. Well, I think I've ranked Flash higher actually. But I'm gonna go with Green Arrow 1, Flash 2, a Jay Garrick 3. And the reason why I think Green Arrow is 1 for me over the Flash is I think Green Arrow has that weight and like impact in the universe. I think we will be talking about, like, this issue will matter a year from now. Like, this issue will have had hey, this is an essential issue.
Right.
You need to read for this year's worth of stories. Whereas the Flash number 6 isn't that. It's a great issue. It doesn't have that like essential feel, and it's not like good and essential. Whereas like the Green Arrow was very good and essential. So even though I think Flash is a better book, I'm going Green Arrow, Flash, Jay Garrick.
Fair enough.
Josh, you want to go next?
Sure. Top 3 aggregated. I've got Jay Garrick, the Flash, number 5 at 3rd place, the Flash number 6 and 2nd, and number 1 had to go to Harley Quinn number 37. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That was just so good.
Only for the backup.
I think my favorite moment though is gonna be that first action panel in the Flash where Wally gets there where Barry's at. The way that it is drawn of them moving around so quickly and fighting is just it's
Yeah, that actually was
awesome.
really good. I was surprised to see that awesomeness in a book drawn by
Deodato.
Deodato. Yeah, thank you. For me, I'm still deciding on number 3. Oh man, I'll put. Shoot, man. Okay, just sneaking by because of the art. Detective Comics at number 3. I'm putting Jay Garrick at number 2 and Harley Quinn at number 1. Green Arrow was so close to number 3, but the art in Detective Comics is just sneaking by.
so good.
Rambay's killing it with the art.
Yeah,
or he's setting up great artists.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with the art in Detective. No. Between that and
Ricardo Federici,
Starsky's Batman, I'm still not over that panel in the 2nd issue of Batman, the Joker Year 1 story we got where he's coming out of the blood.
Oh
lake.
God.
That was so fucking good.
You know what's wild? Ram V is on his 6th year of DC Comics exclusivity.
Yeah.
Or 6 months of DC Comics exclusivity.
Yeah.
And I still feel like we've only gotten the one thing from him. So what is he cooking?
I don't care, but I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
I'm excited. But you know what I mean? Like,
he's
how do you?
that there's something else coming.
Yeah.
What is that thing? That's what I need to know.
I mean, I think it's going to be, if the rumors are true, it's going to be that Ultimate DC.
Yeah, I do. I think that's what it is.
He's already teased that he's reinventing a character. So.
Yeah, that sounds, and we know Kelly Thompson said that she's going to be writing an ongoing for something soon. She's been scared to do a major ongoing for years because she feels, because it's like hard, and also she feels like it's like you don't get, like, you have to, like, she feels like it makes her work is less impactful that way. But she was saying she feels like as she's gotten older, like the legacy of her work hasn't quite clicked as much, because she creates 6 issues, but then like she moves on, and the idea, and like what people remember years and years later are these like long epic runs. Yep. And so she's been really wanting to do one, and she said that she got an opportunity that she was like, I can't pass this up. And what that opportunity is, I don't know, but it screams, it's probably DC. Given that Marvel has been a mess, and any ongoing series at Marvel probably doesn't have the weight you want right now.
Is she the one doing Birds of Prey right now?
Yeah, she's doing Birds of Prey.
Okay, so like right away, her legacy is set in stone. That series is fan-fucking-tastic.
I mean, look, the problem is, like, 7 years from now, let's say Birds of Prey ends at issue 12.
Yeah,
how much are we still going to be talking about it?
Versus, I probably like, we talk
will. About sure, right? But like, how often have you talked about? What are some generic 12-issue like miniseries, like Jeff Johns' Shazam? Like, we don't really talk about that much anymore.
I'm still really waiting on
Rorschach a lot.
We talk about,
you
like,
don't lie.
Oh yeah, I do. It's one of my favorite examples of how Tom King can fuck up any character.
I do use it as an example for my case study on Tom King writing, though.
Oh, that's hysterical. But anyway,
12, I can pull a 12-issue series out of my butt. I know I can. Like right away, I'm thinking of Convergence, which I don't think was 12 issues, but
12 issue. What I'm trying to think of, like, not even like what's a random 6-issue miniseries that like has. Here's a good example: Bendis' Checkmate. How much should we talk about Checkmate?
I didn't like. It was written by Bendis. I don't talk about Bendis.
Yeah.
Even if it was good,
not in a fair light, and I do bring that up too. But I
didn't finish it.
Again, it's just a hate on it.
Yeah. Even if it was good, how much did we talk about it? 0. We don't talk about it.
I have seen some people talk about it.
That's
okay. Never mind. I tried to make a point. It didn't land.
I get where your point's going, but I feel like Birds of Prey might actually be one of those stories.
The reason being, and I'm going to agree with Rob here, the reason being, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the best Birds of Prey stories ever.
Oh, it's been fantastic so far, for sure.
Yeah, and it's a resurgence of a team that we've been wanting for the past 15 years.
Yeah. So while if people are talking about the best comic runs to read, or something you absolutely need to get into comics, it's not going to show up there. It's not. Yeah. But if you talk about the Birds of Prey, right? This will have to be at the top of the list.
She wants to have some big legacy books that people will be talking about for years to come. It's like, this is a definitive story for this character.
I don't know. I want.
And right now, she's
Aquaman.
Oh yeah.
I think that might. I was thinking that might be it, but I really think I think it's after Rum. I think she's taking over for Zdarsky.
You think so?
Oh, Batman.
Yeah. That's why I'm wondering. I wonder if she's doing the Batman for the Ultimate Universe.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Or
as far as I know, Zdarsky wants to be on Batman as long as possible.
Yeah, but like his reviews, I'm like, I don't like that run. It's not.
I fucking love it, man. I love it. It's amazing.
Get someone new on.
It's
honestly though, Josh,
this is the
we are in the
minority.
Batman crossing the No, I loved
yes.
I loved Josh James Tinian's work with Batman. So really
I
great ideas.
really like
That
it
to
too.
me is like good Batman, like what I want Batman to be.
Good ideas, horrible follow through.
Yeah, but this is even worse follow through. We're talking about like a multiverse of Zurinars that's stuck in Batman's head, creating failsafe. Like it's a bunch of just like nonsense like ideas that kind of work but not really. And then you have Gotham War, which was a mess. Like I don't know.
Gotham War didn't really need to happen. Gotham War,
Zdarsky chose to have Vandal Savage in there. Anyone who knows their writing was like, yeah, this is not a good idea. Try something else.
Vandal Savage was the only good part of that story.
But he
I'm
shouldn't have been in the
convinced.
It's like
story.
Gandalf Savage is the one we need to forget here.
And Bruce is so unlikable for no reason. Like it's not like a compelling unlikable.
Because
Where like
I mean,
it's just unlikable.
If you look at it, it's imagine yourself in the comic book world. It's a real world view of what he has to be like.
I don't think that's true though. Whatever.
I think Batman. I think
we can hash this out
Batman.
another day.
Batman in real world would be kind of a douchebag.
Yeah, but
But like to his family though.
Yeah,
Look,
it's kind
here's
of
what I
what he's
understand.
always been, even
Josh,
in
here's
one
what I
way,
don't
the world's
understand.
finest.
Tom King tells a story about Batman falling from grace and becoming a bit of a douchebag. And you're like, this is the worst story ever. Nightmare
Because what it was written.
sucks.
It's not
Tyrant's
quite
Wing
the theme.
sucks. And now you're like, Zdarsky, everything's the same. Batman's and his family are at war with each other, disagreeing over very basic morality issues. And you're like, oh, it's so good. It's so
But
good.
it's
And it's the
not even the
same
same
struggle.
kind of story, though. I mean, in the broadest sense of the words, yeah.
Which is one of which is Zurinar influence, and the other one is trauma influenced. But they're
Where
I don't know.
the way I see it, so I was enjoying Tom King's run for the most part up until he like fucked us over on the wedding. So
Yeah, I
like,
think
that left a
Nightmares
bad taste in
ended
my
it.
mouth.
Yeah.
But like you have Zdarsky, in a word, I could describe it as bombastic, where Tom King's run is grounded.
Draw.
And I think that is where we're finding the excitement in it, the bombastic story that we're getting from Zdarsky. Like it's going a full speed the entire time. And that's why Gotham War didn't hit the same for pretty much
I think
everybody,
some of
because it
it-
was so pulled out of the speed that Zdarsky's Batman had the entire time.
Yeah.
From Failsafe, was that the first arc? Was Failsafe? Yeah, it was Failsafe into the multiverse, into Joker year one. Like it's just go, 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 go. Here's this, here's this, here's this. And it's like it's in your face, and you're like, whoa, this is awesome, dude.
But
And Tom King was a
not
lot
just-
slower and a little more grounded. Like,
You know what I think part of it is? I don't care for Zurinar. I don't care for any of the Joker stuff. Joker is such a boring character to me. And like the fact that this run is built, but the fact that this run is built on Zurinar, the Joker, and this robot that has no emotions, like, is why like I don't think it clicks for me. It's because none of that stuff is good, and then Batman's also being unlikable, and so I think it's that combination of everything. It just doesn't work.
I never
You know.
wanted Batman to be likable. Only
I don't need Bruce to be likable. I need him not to be insufferable. Can like let his family bring out the best in him. Instead, like it's like the
But that's the
just
opposite
gone.
of the way that he views things. It's his job to bring out the best in them. At
Yeah,
any
why
cost.
did
we all know. Whatever. Anyway, we're ready to move on.
All right. Well, that is it, actually. Thank you,
family.
everybody, for watching. We will be back next week covering all of DC's weekly releases. Same geek time, same geek channel. And that is the show. We're going to get out of here, so you'll have to as well. Be careful out there. And remember, in the Geek Matrix, everybody has a home. In the Geek Matrix, you are not alone.